if the Cowboys are going to get better in 2024, who are the players that will make them so? Tonight, we'll talk about three guys that could single handedly make the 2024 Dallas Cowboys better than the 2023 Dallas Cowboys. Let's get to it. Here we go. What is up, everyone, and welcome into A to Z Sports Dallas Primetime. I am your host, Mauricio Rodriguez, streaming with you live every Sunday and Thursday night, 8 p.m. Central, and catching up with the guys in between Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday with these quick-hitting videos. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about this, because I checked out Butch Lombardi's and Jeff Kavanaugh's show about whether or not the Cowboys would be better in 2024 and what would be the reasons for them being better or worse. And they had a very good discussion. And I started thinking, personnel-wise, who are the players that could make this roster better? Because Jeff Kavanaugh made a very good point in saying that, hey, this team is not as talented as the 2023 one because you lost a lot of players and you're running some experiments with the offensive line and you're doing this and you're doing that. And I thought it was a very good point. So I started wondering, okay, who are three guys? Who could I point to on a show talking about, oh, these guys could make the team better? But I wanted to take it a step further. So number one rule, we're going to establish some ground rules. And I know there's a spoiler alert staring at you in the face right now as we speak. But still, rule number one, I'm not going to bet on like a player taking a jump, right? We might get into that when I make a honorable mention at the end. But this has to be somebody that wasn't on the team in 2023 and he's on the team in 2024. So that limits our options a whole lot because the Cowboys didn't sign a lot of outside free agents, as we all know, which kind of sucks, but hey, it is what it is. Number two, it's got to be legitimately somebody that is better, or could be better, and we've got reasons for that, versus whoever started at his spot or played at his role the year before. I'm also not going to count Trevon Diggs. And a lot of people might be thinking that Trevon Diggs would have been a good answer. But let me tell you something. If we're talking about the team being better, I don't think having a very good number one cornerback, and parentheses, we don't know how healthy he's going to be in the first place. I don't think it changes or it moves the needle a whole lot as to where the Cowboys are at, because the Cowboys did have Stephon Gilmore and Daron Bland starting on the outside last year. So that was two former All-Pro cornerbacks, a defensive player of the year too in Gilmore. So as much as I think Diggs coming back is a huge positive for the 2024 Cowboys, I couldn't get him on the list just because Gilmore was good enough for me to, and the cornerback room was good enough for me to be like, okay, that won't move the needle for the Cowboys. Now, with all that being said, let me know, who do you think could single-handedly make the Cowboys players? Let me know in the comments. Here are my three answers. You ready? Number one, Cooper Beebe. You're watching at him. You're looking at him, on the screen right now. And it might be a little bit pretentious to be like, oh, this third-round rookie will single-handedly make the Cowboys better. It might sound like something that a very optimistic fan would say. But let's talk about who Tyler Biadasz was and what was the biggest issue with the Cowboys offense in 2023. Tyler Biadasz was not bad, okay? He wasn't great. He wasn't good even. He was average at best. And he had some moments where he was less than average. So there were some moments where he was bad. But overall, a lot of teams would like to have Tyler Biadasz. And I think that was evidenced by the fact that he got a decent contract in free agency when he signed with the Washington Commanders. Tyler Biadasz was middle of the pack in several areas. Per Pro Football Focus, he was 15th in pass blocking. And if you looked at the stats, if you prefer that, and you look at pass blocking efficiency, which is basically pressure rate with some added weight towards sacks, Tyler Biadasz was 17th in the NFL. So again, not terrible, not near the bottom of the league, not good, just pretty much exactly average in a 32-team league, right? Being 17th, 15th, that's what you're talking about. Run blocking, though, also middle of the pack. And when you talk about the Cowboys' struggles on offense, run blocking was the biggest issue of them all, or the running game in general. We can blame some of that on the blocking up front. We can blame some of that on a tasteless running game scheme, which didn't seem to do anything fun, really, while you were facing the Detroit Lions and they were doing all of this pulling lineman thing, counter, power, zone, inside and outside. And the Cowboys were just doing like the same run over and over again. And not exactly, but you know what I mean. If you watch the Cowboys run the football in 2023, you know there wasn't anything special to it. So the fact that your center couldn't be a people mover in the trenches was always an issue for the Cowboys. Because if you're not going to do things creatively through the scheme, then you better bet on those guys generating some movement up front. Biotish did not do that. And I'm not sure how long it's going to take for Cooper Beebe to reach Biotish's level, because he was a starting caliber center, and we don't know if Cooper Beebe, who has never played center, is that. However, I do think he's going to be a people mover, because that's what Cooper Beebe did at Kansas State. He was pretty damn good, and we've talked about him not having great upside because he's got short arms. The athleticism is not exactly elite or anything like that. In fact, when you look at his lateral mobility and his agility and all that, it wasn't exactly great. Now, the strength, though, is there, and he could be a game changer on the Cowboys' run offense. So that's why he's my number one answer on this list. Give me Cooper Beebe with the strength, with the violence, and maybe the Cowboys incorporate more gap scheme elements to it just so we can get him to the second level a little bit more often and get him to bury people to the ground. So there you go. Cooper Beebe, my number one answer in this conversation that we're having. Number two Cowboy who could single-handedly make the Cowboys better. The one outside free agent that they signed that could make an impact is Eric Kendricks, linebacker. This is an obvious answer, isn't it? I could basically recap all of the stats that you probably already know by now, including over 6 seasons with 100 plus tackles. We could talk about Eric Kendricks being 25th in linebacker grade for Pro Football Focus. But mostly, we could talk about the Cowboys having a traditional linebacker, period, which is something they maybe had in Damon Clark back in 2023. But give me Kendricks, who can be pretty good in coverage, who is smart, who knows where to be, and is very disciplined with his gap assignments, and somebody that knows what the scheme is for the Cowboys under Mike Zimmer now. Eric Kendricks is a surefire tackler, so that's something that we're not going to see a downgrade from, because the Cowboys under Dan Quinn were one of the best tackling teams in the NFL, to be honest. So Eric Kendricks, more than anything else, is similar to Cooper Beebe, somebody that is coming into a room where you didn't have anything special going on, because the Cowboys didn't, especially after Leighton's injury. And he's coming in to fix your biggest problem, which is just stopping the run. And I do believe having somebody of the size of Kendricks and all that can be the difference maker. So give me Eric Kendricks. Again, not a lot of stats that I can throw your way that you don't already know, but having a traditional linebacker should be enough for you to be like, okay, that's a pretty fair assessment to make. Number 3 is where I had to get creative. Because again, if I'm not including Trevon Diggs, if I'm not including some of these players that could be good candidates for the list, then who am I going to include? And again, I'm not going to say Royce Freeman. If you want me to say Royce Freeman, I will, but I don't think he moves the needle. I don't think he'll make the roster. Right now, he's not on my projection. So Freeman is in the answer. So I kind of felt forced to pick a rookie, honestly. Honorable mention, I'm going to toss it out there right now. Honorable mention, it was going to be Jalen Tolbert. Originally, he was on the list. Here's the thing about Tolbert, though. If you combine Gallup's and Tolbert's numbers, you get a wide receiver number 3 that had 56 catches, 93 targets, which is not exactly a great catch rate percentage, 60%. Your starters usually should be around 65%. Also not terrible, I guess. And The Tolbert Gallup combo was good for 686 yards, 4 touchdowns. All in all, it wasn't bad for a number 3 wide receiver, especially one on a team where CD is getting double-digit targets for at least half the season. And then there's Jake Ferguson and Brandon Cooks, blah, blah, blah. So I don't think that even Jalen Tolbert taking the next step is a difference maker, if I'm being honest with you. Not enough to be on the list. So, however, honorable mention to Jalen Tolbert, a third year where he takes a leap. Yeah, could be a game changer for the Cowboys, but maybe not too much to make the list. So he's not on the list. Number 3, though, is creative. Again, I will say that. Number 3 is Marshawn Kneeland, the Cowboys' second-round draft pick. And by the way, if you're thinking, so the third-round draft pick and the second-round draft pick are on the list, but the first-round guy is not, you are correct, because I don't think Tyler Guyton is better than Tyron Smith. And even if he develops into an all-pro caliber left tackle, it won't be in 2024, so I cannot bet on that. And remember, Tyron Smith was great just last year. So it isn't like I'm talking about prime Tyron Smith or anything. I'm talking about 2023 Tyron Smith being great. And for me, I just cannot put Tyler Guyton on the list. But it is Marshawn Kneeland, and I don't think he will start. So I'm not talking about him making the edge room better versus Micah Parsons versus DeMarcus Lawrence. That would be crazy for me to just suggest. However, if anybody has among the rookies, in my opinion, if anybody else other than Cooper Beebe has a shot at making like that big impact, it's Kneeland becoming a much better number 3 defensive end than the Dante Fowler, Dorrance Armstrong rotation. I think Kneeland has the violence, has the play strength to make an impact right away in the NFL. I don't think he's ready to start. I think we're all in the same boat there because he's not the most refined when it comes to technique, right? People have talked about that high shoulder level, him being too stiff and not bending enough when he's rushing the passer, among other details in his film that stick out as some problems. But Marshawn Kneeland is an NFL caliber athlete, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has like this slightly improved version of the Sam Williams rookie season. What happened in the Sam Williams rookie season, if you guys remember, is that he played like 25% of the snaps, and he had 4 sacks, and he had 10 tackles for loss, and he had like great numbers. Sam Williams was pretty much the same in 2023, by the way. I'll give you the numbers. Pressures, 23 in 2023, 22 in 2022, which is kind of funny. Sacks, he had 4.5 in 2023, had 4 as a rookie. Stops, 14 versus 15. And he only played 32 more snaps. So it wasn't like the playing time was insanely different or anything like that. But Williams was still behind Armstrong, and he was still behind Dante Fowler. What I think could change for Kneeland is he has a clear path towards being defensive end 3. He basically would need to beat Sam Williams and Sam Williams only for him to earn that role. If he's better than Armstrong, if he's better than Fowler in this particular area, there's an area where the Cowboys would improve. Just having a better rotation of defensive ends. I know that's a little bit of a controversial pick, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you think in the comments. Maybe I could have gone with Trevon Diggs, but I do think there's a change there, and I think there's a high likelihood that it ends up being a positive change for Dallas. With all that being said, I don't think there's any other options that I could go with right here. Because I look at the wideouts, not a lot of changes there other than the Tolbert thing. Tight end, I don't think a good number 2 tight end or number 3 tight end. I mean, I'll rephrase that. I don't think you've got a good enough number 2 tight end behind Jake Ferguson to be like this guy. And I don't think having a Brevin Spanford will move the needle, or having John Stephens Jr. back will move the needle. Although he could be a good wild card for the list. But maybe it's too early to give him such praise. Ladies and gentlemen, that will be it for me tonight here on the show. If you enjoyed the content, hit the like button. It takes about half a second, helps me out a ton, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Check out more of our primetime videos on the channel. Bye-bye.